Yo.
Yo.
You're usually the one that says yo.
Yo.
What up, what up, what up?
Episode 11?
Yo, nah, I don't know.
Episode 13 says Parks, a.k.a. Bilindoff back there. All right, word. Episode 13 of the Stay Silent Public Radio.
What's the name of this podcast?
Stay Silent Public Radio.
Yep.
And yeah, we're finally back to it. Excited to see you.
We're live from Rhue's crib.
Right? Episode 12.
Oh, so it's episode 12, I bet.
Noted.
Which is fire because we're about to go into 12 years of Stay Silent.
Wow, look at the timing on that. That's perfect.
That feels like, like when Kendrick dropped and they got like all the breakdowns of like, yo, he dropped on this day because of this and this. So
I saw you retweet that. Don't even play.
I did.
No, the alignment is there. I'm Sabrina of Stay Silent.
Jay, a.k.a. Where's Nasty.
And we're here to, recap. It's been a whole year since we did this podcast, I think. The last episode we talked about 2016 or 2012, and we're here with Hill.
The blog
era. And so, yeah, we're back at it and excited to be here. This weekend, we're celebrating, like Jay said, 12 years of Stay Silent, which is nuts. How are you feeling about the festivities we have planned?
Yo, I'm hype. It's crazy how it worked out because we were supposed to have Kitty say a word for Love You Better picnic, and that didn't work. But I feel like this is a good thing to bring Kitty to. I'm hype about Rhue doing Rhue Boston.
Yeah.
Lottie Dottie. I feel like everything is, I don't know. I like that we're doing Providence and Boston.
I think it's important.
In the same weekend. I think it's gonna be dope.
Yeah, I agree. Huh?
What about you?
I'm feeling excited about it too. Same things. Like I feel like Kitty being at the anniversary party at Crib, full circle. And then, yeah, excited to be in Boston again. We haven't been at Boston since we threw the first Lottie Dottie at Chinatown, which was, or the second Lottie Dottie at Chinatown, which was like March of 23.
Nah, but we did Boston. We did like Gizombas for Lovers.
Gizomba. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's been a minute.
Nah,
I don't even think we did anything in 24 though. No.
Yeah,
no, we didn't.
I feel like all the years been
blending. But yeah, excited for the weekend. Hope that y'all can come out and celebrate 12 years with us. But man, we're at December of 2024, about to be in 25. And I feel like this year has been full of surprises. When we were thinking about how to plan that for this episode, I think looking back at the year and highlighting like the successes and the pivotal moments and the key things that we remember is always a part of like what we do when we're looking back. But both of us felt like it was really important to kind of add more context and maybe some more realness to like looking back at 2024, which on the creative entrepreneurship and business side, like we had a lot of challenges this year.
Facts. And
I think culturally and across the industry for a lot of our homies and people that are in this work, like this has been a challenging year.
But it's interesting because I also think like one of the things that we were talking about coming into the episode, like a lot of people, I feel like a lot of these conversations are happening in private. Like nobody's really saying, yo, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Yo, this changed, that changed. Yo, is this effects of the pandemic, like post-pandemic? Is this like, the country's in a fucked up place, people don't got money? Like these are very interesting things that like, I feel like it's very hard to quantify, but then people aren't really, like everybody making it seem like, oh, yo, everything's all good, shit's popping, and it's like, it's business as usual, but the business don't look the same. Yeah. So that changes everything.
Doing what COVID did, they'll never get over it. Things Kendrick said, you didn't listen. Come on, Jay. No, but 100%. Like I feel the same way. I think it's hard to. I know that the business of like event curation, of being a musical artist, of like having a clothing brand, all of that, we utilize social media so much to like connect with people, tell the story of what's happening, and it's a challenging place to. I think one, it doesn't really hold space for a lot of nuance. It's not somewhere that you're like posting updates to in that way for most businesses and most brands. And I do think it makes it challenging, right? Because you want to put your best foot forward. You want to always showcase like the highlighted moments. And I think when I say challenging year for 2024, I think it's been a very clarifying year. And I think that's really important. I think this is just the truth of business. This is the truth of like dedicated work in anything. There are moments where you're in a flow and like shit's hitting on the business side and things are working really, really well, you're motivated. And then there's just times where like there are external factors you can't control that affect your business. Also, internal factors that affect your business. So I just think it's like when you're getting to, one thing I've been seeing more and more is like when we're at 12 years of this, like it's a different muscle we're using. It's new shit. Like the things that motivated us in the first part of our business, like they're very different now. And I even think like again, aging and growing in creative business too. Like a lot of our peers are now in their 30s. We're in our 30s. So I feel like it's just a whole different muscle. Challenge isn't necessarily something I think we either of us shy away from.
Yeah, nah, to like to your point about like like people showing like their highlights or whatever. I feel like being in a creative business, well, specifically within like the music and quote unquote culture space, fashion, like where all of these things combine and connect, this is really based on perception. So, like at the end of the day, people are selling perception. So it's like I feel like people attach a lot to what all of us are doing because of that energy that we're putting into the world. So it's like, I mean, how people like how do I put this? Like if I'm out here, if I'm selling a good time, but I can't tell you that the house is burning. I can't tell you all of these things. And it's like you kind of have like a lot of these things are suppressed. So that's like to me like why I feel you don't really see anybody in the space talking about this stuff because it's like, well, it's like if I say to you, like, yo, you throwing a party. I'm like, that's just gonna be all right tonight. Like, why would I want to go to your party?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, it's like if you're telling the story about you're selling something, you're selling like this good time. I feel like also we're in social media makes everything feel very like all or nothing. And so you can't say, yo, some of my favorite parties Stay Silent has thrown were not when we were at 350 people on the spot. Like our first run of parties for the first 2 years we threw something, I don't think 100 people came to them. And like, I mean, we're doing 808s and twerk tapes, 75, 80 people. We were doing early parties that we had were much smaller, more intimate. And I think there's a beauty in being able to go somewhere and enjoy the music, enjoy the space without the pressure of like, this is a hyped thing. But we are chasing hype. We're a culture that's chasing hype. We're using platforms that chase hype. So like, how do you feel this year has kind of shifted the way that we're talking about Stay Silent? Has it shifted the way we're talking about Stay Silent? What do you see like needs to change in the ways that like our peers and us are communicating and DJs as a DJ? Because it does feel like a lot of smoke and mirrors.
It does, but I think the biggest thing, I just think the perception is what needs to change. But a lot
on whose end? Like on the consumer's end or everybody?
I think on everybody, because a lot of like what is being like people are influenced by things that they've never actually experienced. So like, and I remember, I came back from LA, like I was in LA last year, right? Me and Bilindoff, we go to LA. And the first thing I said to you when I came back, I said, yo, a lot of this stuff is a lot smaller than people think it is. So I'm like, yo, you go to some of the most relevant parties that people see on the internet, and it's in a venue that's doesn't even hold 200 people, right? Like they hold in the line for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, not because it's 200 people outside, it's because they literally cannot fit more than 125 people inside of this place. But if you just seeing this on the internet, you never been, it always look packed. It always
and
looks
it is, yeah.
It always looks packed. It always looks popping. But this stuff is all relative to what's actually going on. So it's like, there are like the thing that I would say is like a lot of times you're comparing, and this is where like I feel like conversations about like scale and all these things come into, because a lot of times we're all comparing things that, like, if you're a measure, like you see something on social media, you're like, oh my God, this is so lit, or it's designed a certain way, and it's making, it's positioned in a way that you're gonna look at it through that lens. But then when you go, you're like, yo, this really isn't too different than what's going on at things I go to at home or other places, just in a different community. So to me, that was like, I remember like one of the main things I was saying, I'm like, what I do appreciate is that they really pay attention to, like, the details are really paid attention to, but it's relative to their culture of what they have going on, right? So for me, that's why I think the perception needs to change. Like, I understand like that we're blessed to be able to go to different parts of the country, different parts of the world, hear some of the best DJs, go to some of the best events, experience some of these places firsthand from some of the people who cultivate these things. So we have a much different lens on what's going on in the world. Like, you know, how many times I talk to people and they said, yo, we want this to be a boiler room style party. Yo, they never been to the boiler room. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're just seeing this based on a 1 minute clip that's going viral on Instagram, right? And then I think from the DJ and event curator perspective, it's like, if you're chasing virality, if you're chasing a moment, like, yo, the fact is your party is not gonna be a collection of highly curated moments. Like, yo, there's gonna be times, like, that's I say this all the time. Like, there's some nights when you go in there and you could play the same exact set. Like, I'm not saying song for song because that's not really how we DJ, but you could play, generally the same music, and one night, one song is gonna go crazy, and then the next night you play that same exact song and people just kind of look at you. But there's so many factors and variables that you're dealing with, and I just think that's something that, as DJs, we need to be honest with. It's just like, we're always dealing with a lot of variables, and that's okay. Like, not everything has to be like this incredible, legendary, memorable night. Like, some nights it's just like, man, I just want to step outside my house to hear music, and that's okay. And I think that's what we need to get like back to. It just feels like everything needs to be a highlight or a moment. And I think that, like, 2024 to me has become like the pinnacle of that, because you see, like, one of the main things that you see too that's also changed in DJ culture is, so you have post-pandemic, right? So you have things like apartment life, really, really big.
Right, like the streamed party sets.
Yeah, streamed party sets.
On YouTube, on Tip, yeah.
Like, this is like, I won't say peak boiler room, but we're post-boiler room. We in people's houses. Niggas DJing on couches, like they DJing in this setting with like a couch, people DJing in cars. So you have like this very visual component that wasn't around in DJing even before the pandemic. I feel like the pandemic kind of propelled that with streaming, like live streams from the crib. But then also you have like for DJs, the release of Serato stems that
explain that, like break that down as somebody who has never opened Serato.
So Serato stems.
Serato is the program that you use to DJ digital music.
Most DJs in America that are DJing open format music, that's what, like, if you see a DJ with a laptop inside of a nightclub, like, I would say 95% of the time they're running a program called Serato to DJ music. So Serato released it. So generally, like, if you were to buy a record back in the day, it has the song, like you're used to
track one would be like the song as is.
Song as is. Then it would have like separated elements of the song. So the a cappella, which is just the vocals, no beat. And then you'll have an instrumental, which is just the beat.
Exactly.
Somewhere along the lines, like once records and CDs became obviously less of a thing or a medium that people use, it becomes harder to get the instrumental for like every song.
Moving things to digital, like the way that songs are recorded even, and the way that beats are made, production, things are a lot different now.
So, in a lot of artists, they don't release the instrumental to the song. It's harder to get. So what Serato Stems has allowed people to do at scale is you can separate all of the elements from a song in real time. So to me, when that got released in full, that changed the way that everybody DJ. Like literally from like 1 week to the next is like you hearing people in the club doing all these crazy blends.
Blends, which are just OG edits.
Yeah, exactly.
Blends is what edits were called before we called them edits.
So like, you know, like doing like all these crazy blends live on the spot. Some people really, really creative. Some
some songs really we don't need that.
Some not so creative. But that to me, like it's flipped because that was like the whole edit culture was a very niche specific specific thing that was going on that, you know, a lot of people attribute to like Selection, K-Tronada, like that world. But overnight now it's like, yo, everybody has access.
In all genres of music too.
And then you can, you know, like, yo, you can hear some shit on Instagram. It's like, oh, I can make that or try to make that live on the spot. Now I have the ability to record my own and put them out. So all of this has become like a lot more
democratized,
accessible.
Yeah. I think as a music fan, like there's been a lot of challenges. When I look at 2024 and like the edit and the effects of Serato stem, I also just think about the way we consume music and just how much, like when I would go back, and this might be old head shit, so you already know, but when I go back and listen to like Hove projects, like I needed to listen to Blueprint 3 like 10 times. Blueprint like 20 times before
Blueprint 3 still old too though.
No, I know. But I mean, with Blueprint 3, I feel like we already had some digital, like blogs were writing about it. There was some feedback. But you go back and the Easter eggs you're catching from like old albums are things that took me months of listening to be like, oh shit, that's a reference from Grease, or that's a Sopranos reference, or it's like within 10 minutes, we have full breakdowns of what happened on the Kendrick album. And then in 20 minutes, there's 60 edits of every fucking song. Yeah. And I just wonder like how the balance of what the art of all of this is, like the art of DJing, the art of rapping, the art of beat making. Like there is some things that we can, I think democratizing and allowing for many people to try something is so important. And also like what are our systems of like balance and of measure when we're like consuming these things, because it's just everything, a dime a dozen. And like you were saying, like it's an art form. So when you're doing, like you go online and you see a certain blend and then I can go on stems and do that. That's not my blend. That's your blend.
I also think to what you're saying about that is so like when I was younger DJing, there was a lot of rules.
Yeah.
To how like this is how you.
And part of that is because of how many barriers there were. Like in order to be a DJ, there were so many things you needed to learn, and you needed to go to somebody to learn a lot of them.
And I think right now what's happening is the rules are being rewritten. But a lot of those rules, like you got to think about it, like the way that the rules I feel like were established is by gatekeepers and then off of taste of the people. So I just think we're going through a reset right now.
Thankfully, right?
That we're going through a reset. Like I think like a lot of the rules that did exist were stupid. And I think even Stay Silent, like when we came in 2012, you know, we were breaking, like at that time as a DJ, I was breaking a lot of rules of like the school of DJing that I came from. And I think right now that's what's happening again. But it's interesting because to your point, we're able to consume all of this different stuff all at once.
So let me ask you this. You're at 12 years of Stay Silent, like 17, 18 years of DJing.
It's just crazy.
You know, yes, I completely agree. I think it's so funny sometimes when I talk to like younger homies in New England and they're like, have y'all ever thought about doing like whatever, like an art show, or have y'all ever thought? And I'm like, oh shit. We're so old that y'all don't know the stuff that like we did when we first got out in the world. Or like people who just came to crib, they're like, oh, Jay DJ's like this. And I'm like, Jay DJ is like 100 things. But like you're catching him in this moment or this era. So how are you as a 35-year-old DJ almost who has a lot of control over the spaces you're in through Stay Silent, and control meaning like you're comfortable where you're at, you're booking the DJs around you, you're in your home base, the audience is generally mostly familiar with you. Like, how is your relationship in 2024 changing to music? And like, what would you say is keeping you excited and trying new things? Because I think a critique that New England gets in general, and this is something that I see all the time on the internet, that part of me wants to like throw my computer every time I see it. But at the same time, like, I understand that people might not know, but like people's backlash about, yo, every time Keisha Cole Love gets played in an R&B party, it's like, no matter where you are in the world, Keisha Cole Love may be played at an R&B party. Like, or like people being like,
when I see you.
Yeah, like y'all think that this is so groundbreaking, right? And I just wonder, like, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you like combat just the part of things that are tradition and the part of things that are a part of who you are as a DJ, and like keeping it exciting and recognizing that a lot of people are doing things for the first time?
So I think you asked like five different questions. But for me, this is the most excited I've been about music, period. Like,
why?
Because one, I think, if you go like, yo, my first DJ name was International Nasty, right? So, and I always say this, like, the archetype of DJ that DJ Lefty was in the early 2000s, like, that was a very strange thing. Like, you're somebody who can play all of these different cultures of music. Like, that wasn't even called open format.
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, yo, you could play Spanish music, African music, and then play hip hop. Like,
deep.
Like, you can go deep in all of these genres. And, you know, that is a thing that still is a very weird thing to do. Like, usually you have somebody who's like, yo, I'm just that Afro house DJ. Like,
well, I think even if they don't say it, right, the depth of knowledge of the music. Like, you can be an open format DJ and play like a WizKid Bad Bunny set in your thing, but that's the same thing as like a DJ who DJs house being able to play like like a Drake set and being like, I play hip hop, and it's like, you can't, how deep is your bag? So I think what you're referencing with the Lefty is like the depth of music, like musical knowledge,
the actual knowledge that you have, right? So for me, I feel like I've been waiting my whole life. Like, this moment that we're in right now is the moment I've been waiting my whole life to do. Like, because if you think about it, like, if you look at how Stay Silent is set up, every party is built around a niche sound that I know how to play. Like, so if you just think about that, is these parties are essentially 4-hour sets of that genre of music. That it's like, okay, like, maybe in a general party, we can't go deep into the dance hall. We can't go deep into the Afro beat, the Afro house, the gizomba, the hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But we created spaces where, like, yo, if you really about this, then you're gonna get your fix deep into.
I hope we get this for the rap. I hope we get a rap bag soon.
Yeah, you know,
because we still don't. I don't think we.
I think it's happening. I think it's happening with rap, but I'll tell you what I think. What's going on with hip hop, which is
after.
Okay. Like, but
Parks, make a note of that.
Remind me to make that point. So to me, I feel like I've waited my whole DJ career for this exact moment that's going on right now, where you could go to a party and actually play all of these genres. Like, now, specialized parties, in my opinion, they're dead.
They're dead. I completely agree.
It's over. Been dead. It's over. It's over. Like, yo, if right now, and I'm saying this as people who are coming in a 10-year anniversary of a R&B party, doing a dance hall branded party
for like 8 years.
Right? And if that's your angle in 2025,
go back to the drawing board.
It's not, because it's just not. I'm not saying it's too late, but it don't hit the same. Like, you're like, if you think that this has just become a format that even the biggest bottle service clubs are doing now.
Yeah, and I think to that point, like, when we think about not just our region, which every market is inundated with the same types of parties, to the point where like restaurants, like taco spots and cocktail bars are hosting music nights curated around like an R&B night, or you know, and again, I'm not knocking it. I think it's how trends move and how culture like moves and industry moves, but I do think like what is going to shake things up is real.
But I think, to your point, what comes of this now, this is when taste matters the most. This is when, yo, like, who are you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because now, at that time, and you know, the 2010s, we came from the large club, big format era, 1,000 people in a party. You playing all the big music,
and that's what moved us to niche.
And that's exactly now. When everybody ran away from those things, they seeing, you know, like, you got to think about how much Duce Palooza / Henny Palooza, Brunch Bounce, Grits and Biscuits, 143, Selection, for our region, Day Trail, like all of these things changed.
Love You Better.
Changed the landscape of what partying is in a lot of these cities.
Yeah.
So like now, like, yo, you seeing, you know, like, yo, just in this, I'm just saying this for context. Like, when you see like some of the venues, just look at Boston, right? Look at Boston and look at the parties that they're allowing to be programmed in some of these venues.
Live Nation owned.
Yeah, and the people that own those venues 10 years ago would not even let you go into the club as a patron.
No, like, they would cancel artists that had shows there that are now the genres of the music that are like taking over those spaces.
So I think that's
how cultural shift happens. You look up and you're like, okay, everything's different.
So now what I think is happening is they're taking, you know, like, you have these spaces and they're taking, you know, their cookie cutter way of doing it. And so that's one thing of like where I think this is, right? So I just think taste matters so much more right now. Is back at the person. And I think this is where, you know, you get to take the risk. You get to do the things, because now you really have to show people, yo, who are you? And I think this is not just with DJing. This is with
I think this is with content creation. I think it's with, you know, photography, designing clothes, like all creative output, because it is really easy to produce a final product and not know who's who and what's what. And people are tired of it. And that's why, like, I think at this point in everything, I don't take it personally when I see critiques of DJs online. Like, I think people have a lot more comfortability, like, just speaking on other people's art, which I don't know if people realize, like, somebody's DJ set is their artwork. Like, it's if somebody went up to your painting and was like, everybody uses blue. Like, I can't believe everybody's using blue. Like, we would have a feedback to that. We'd be like, yo, like, have you asked them their motivations? Do you know why they're moving this way? You know what I mean? But that's kind of why I don't take it personal when people do that, because I just think there's so much unintentional and like thoughtless work going out into the world. I won't even. So as an end user, it's like, I went to the R&B party at the taco place, and then 2 weeks later I went to an R&B party in another city, and I watched 4 R&B parties on YouTube. So now I have a, like, what I feel is a context base, and I can't even be mad at people about it. Like you're saying, our goal as people who want to keep working and being in this space and keep wanting to push people's ideas is to like raise that taste level.
But I also think, yo, we got to challenge people too, though, because this is my thing, man. It's a lot of, and I'm not even saying just me, I'm saying DJs in general.
And you talk to a lot of them often.
It's a lot of DJs that's out here taking risks. So what you see on the internet, that doesn't mean it's going to translate at the moment in the room when you're in the room, right? And I'll give you a personal example right now. And you go online, and you know, you could see a video, let's say Leon Thomas, Mutton. You could see videos. It's in Reels, it's in this, people's talking about it, like they love this song so much. And then, yo, you could go in a party and play that, and people look at you like you have 6 heads for playing that song. Like, this happens a lot. Like this isn't,
and all DJs will attest to this.
You know, like so, like people, like you know, we use these examples so much of different records. Like you know, like me and Slick Vic talk. We had a conversation about this recently, like with like for example, like certain like dance hall music, Afro beat, where it's like, yo, you could be playing some of these songs for 5 or 6 months and people don't know these songs. And then something just happens in the culture where it becomes aligned. And now people are reacting to a song that they didn't care about 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So I think there's so much at play that people don't realize. Like, it's like, yo, like, as a DJ, and this is, I think, the different schools of thoughts of DJing, because in America, in hip hop, in R&B, reggae, like all of those adjacent cultures, we want to hear the hits. House music is a different culture. So when you see a lot of these, and this is where you have to
house music globally.
Mm-hmm. So this is a thing that we have to realize when we're having these conversations, that I think sometimes people don't have the context or the nuance, right? Like that whole like European club culture, primarily when you talk about like the UK, is very, very different from American club culture. So you talk to DJs from like Amsterdam, London, Holland, like Lisbon, like all of these different places. They have a whole different mindset than what we do. And our example of that in America for the last 10 years is selection. And so that's
on a wide scale.
So that's the thing that I think a lot of people aren't realizing is like, I remember A-Track had this tweet where he talked about this, where he said, hip hop is about familiarity and house music is about creating a journey. And so that's for me for a long time. It took me to go to Cape Verde to understand what that meant, because my homie Bonzi always would say that to me. It's like, yo, like house music is not about playing hits, because sometimes, like, you know, so I'm obviously, if y'all know me, I'm Cape Verdean. Afro house is a big thing, right? And I will always say, yo, even like when Kududu was like first coming out and like before 2010s, like 2007, 2008, 2009, I was very confused with that music, because I would say, yo, what's the hits? What's the hits? Like, yo, you sending me a whole folder of songs, bro, I don't, you know what I'm saying? And then when I go play these songs for people in my American circles, American parties, they're like, yo, I don't hear these songs on the radio. I don't see these songs on TV. I don't know anybody playing these songs. So it's, you know, like they're like, what's the hit? So like when you think about it, you have like even like a disconnect. Sometimes people are like, yo, like I go to certain parties and they're only playing beats. You know what I'm saying? But they're DJing in a different language, quote unquote. You know? So I think that's a thing that we have to realize, like DJing is not one, or partying is not one homogenous culture. Like, this is also like a point of contention that I feel like even me and you have, because in the UK, in Europe, in Africa, and other parts of the world, a nightclub is like, it's like the illest shit ever, right? In America, like when you talk about like in our circles, you say like club, like it's like a swear word. Yeah. So I think these are all things that we're experiencing in real time that I think have impact on DJing
and you as a DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, to the point about clubbing, like I do agree that we have completely different cultures, and our point of contention is that I think that when Stay Silent was founded, we were trying to create a new club. Like, we weren't even actually trying to create a club. None of our events were from 10 to 2 for like the first 4 years we hosted stuff. Because the first 3 years we hosted stuff.
And ironically, you were the one that said, yo, we need a nighttime party.
Yeah, which I think is, and it was at a spot that wasn't a club, didn't have bottle service, which again, in America, nightclubs mean something in our region and they mean something in the country. And I just don't want to be a nightclub based on American standards. Like, I don't want to be a nightclub. I don't want Crib to be a nightclub based on American standards. That's why we don't have VIP bottle service. Again, dress code is like not a real thing in the world except for like Vegas and Miami. But, you know, those were things that we built our ideas off of the opposite of that. So the fact that it is a bad word, it's because I believe that culturally it has been a bad place for our peers.
Can I ask you this though? So with a lot of, I guess, culture being homogenized, so like if we're pulling influences from, like I said, like you turn on like Apartment Life, they're based in Paris, right? Like that is huge on YouTube. A lot of the DJs you see playing Boiler Room, like they have a lot of American DJs, but it's worldwide DJ culture, right? And a lot of the events that we're seeing them play are in what they would consider clubs. So like, is there a way to like update how people feel about the language if they're pulling from these sources and expecting those same results?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a struggle I have because even to the other point that you were just making about house music, familiarity, the audience, like I've always thought about parties as a potluck. Like this is something I talk about all the time, but it's not like you're going to a restaurant ordering the dinner and you're having the chef's platter. Like the DJ is making something for you, but your input and the way you react to that is helping create what the space is. And I think in general, like America is so individualistic. This is across every spectrum of this idea. Our culture is so individualistic and so detached from what we actually like as people because we are so tied to commercialism. We are so tied to consumerism that we don't actually fucking know what we want to feel. I think a lot of the stuff you're talking about reminds me of like the Christmas effect or the Thanksgiving effect, where it's like you are sold what Christmas is supposed to look like. You see what Christmas is supposed to look like everywhere. Oof. And then you're in your crib on Christmas Day and you might have matching pajamas and a tree and a picture, but like, what the fuck does it feel like? And this is something that I know across all my friends, like people are thinking about like, yo, the holidays be sad. Like it's kind of sad when people are getting older or things are changing. And it's like, yeah, because we're emulating what things are supposed to feel like. Like you're looking like what a party should look like, but you don't even know what made a party like you don't even know what makes a good party to you. And then your response to that is, I don't like going out. I'm more of like a homebody. And I'm not saying that that's not some people's real natural thing, but I believe that many more people just don't know the questions to ask themselves about like, what would make something enjoyable about this? What friends do I need? Like what are the things that make me enjoy social interaction or dance or music? So like the idea of changing people's perceptions on a word, like I think it's deeper. It's about changing people's perceptions of what their input is on the culture of where they live. And that's a hard thing to swallow because that's a societal shift that like across the board, America is failing at. And like, you know, we're talking about clubs and nightclubs, but this is something that I think this year has become very obvious to both of us in business, where it's like, I can only tell you but so many times, like, yo, the way, like, I can make the event free. I can do all of these things. But like, if you don't recognize the caliber of talent that's come, like these things aren't going to happen on their own.
Yo, it's funny that you say that too, about like the caliber of talent. Cause like, you know, like, I mean, I see people that we know like all the time. Like they talk about like, and I'm using Boiler Room as, I keep bringing this up because this is a reference that like, like I hear a lot of people. I hear this shit so like in the last year I've heard this so much more than in like any other year of like Stay Silent, right? And people will be like, yo, man, like I really want to go to a Boiler Room event or I want to go to this, you know, like they'll always use that. And I'm like, you realize like we book niggas who play on them things all the time. Like it's like these people, like these DJs.
Yeah, who are, name some of your folks this year that like you're proud of like bringing.
Donovan's Yard played Boiler Room. Silent Matic played Boiler Room. Shit, they actually played the same Boiler Room.
Esta came this year.
Esta played like shit Boiler Room legend at this point. Pangea Sound,
Falcons, Sleepy Joe, all them. Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's just in this year. Not to mention, you know, these people also people who have played on these platforms, they come to the region often. You know, so shit. We had DJ Slink, like Jersey club legend. Like you know what I'm saying? Come play at crib. So it's so
all the Afrobeat DJs that have come. Like, Cape Verdean DJs, the dudes from Amsterdam that be at 10, like, and it's not just us, like, regionally, the quality of bookings has fucking skyrocketed compared to where it was 5 years ago.
That's true.
Like, skyrocketed. Shouts to all the producers that are putting the bread up and taking the risk to do that. When, like, I can say and Jay can say as producers, that does not sell tickets. Like, I have, other than Chase B and the first time we brought Esta, the first time we brought Chase B and the first time we brought Esta, other than those two, we have not seen people in a way that would make it worth booking DJs. Like that's a ticket sales thing. Like I think we can add context and people do come because we're offering something new. But I think majority of folks are not like, I saw that this person of this caliber is DJing in Rhode Island and I purchased this ticket.
And then also, I think the people deserve it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, I do too.
So it's like, for me, a lot of times it's not about, like, it's like, obviously, we're in a business, so the goal is to make money in the long term. But also, like, you know, just realizing that, you know, some of these things is just like investment. Like, right. You know, it's like, like,
in like the culture and in the taste level.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's for me, it's the thing that's so interesting is like, so where, like, how do you see this changing? Like from like, because I think you're in a very unique position because you're somebody who's not a DJ, but you have very close proximity to multiple DJs, you know, like, and not just like on a surface level, like, you know,
have managed them,
management standpoint, event production standpoint. So like, I think you have a vantage point that like the average person wouldn't have into some of this stuff. So
the question is,
like, I guess the real question is, from a consumer standpoint, what could DJs be doing better or differently? Oof.
That is such a hard question because I think everyone has onus in like making this better right now. So,
and what does onus mean?
Everyone has like a job to do to make this work. Like to make the cultural fabric of our region, but also like if you're listening to this in New York, it's the same thing for your cities. Like it's the same thing for folks in LA, Chicago, Miami. Like we each have a role. So like on the DJ side, I think across the board, we need to all be asking ourselves, like, what inspires us? When are we most lit up? And being real about the answers to those questions and being curious enough to keep trying things that close the gap between our lack of inspiration and like our lit up moment.
You know what's interesting to that point? So Creep from Silentmatic, he has said something to me in Bilindoff when we were like driving to the airport after Detroit that resonated with me. And I think it's interesting because I don't know, but I feel like a lot of DJs that I talk to are very inspired. And Creep says something that speaks to that. He said, you know, like as DJs, we always have something to look forward to. So like every single week, it's a festival, it's a party, it's a this, it's a that going on that, you know, like it's like, all right, I know next week I got this, in 2 weeks I'm going to this, maybe I'm playing this festival, I'm going to this party. So you always have a different energy transfer going on, right? And like what he was saying, he was like, yo, the average person, they don't have that. Like they might say like, I'm going out twice this month and maybe I won't go out for another month. But he's like, DJs, we always have something to look forward to.
I think that's interesting because I don't know if I have a lot of DJ friends, like you said, and I've managed DJs, and I don't think everyone feels that way. Yeah. Like I think that might be a perspective that you connect with because you're someone who genuinely loves being around music and like outside. Yeah. And I think there's honestly so many super talented DJs that are introverts, and that like the party part of playing the music, or like they love being in the party, but it's very much on like the peripheral, right? So like I think that's an interesting perspective. But I think if I could give critique or like feedback to my DJ friends, it's to like not take for granted the dance that you're doing with an audience. Like this is a service, and I think that can get overplayed on both sides, right? Like it can be very much like the customer's always right type energy, which I do not believe is I don't agree with that at all in DJing. I think DJing is a pure art form. It's one of the pillars of hip hop, and like as a fundamentalist, like that is something that I will always feel. But I do believe that this is something not to be taken for granted. The attention span that people are giving you and the openness people are giving you, and to be curious about that, and to like constantly be bringing the gratitude to like what you're doing. Because I have seen too many of my friends who truly deeply love music, love it, got into it for the right reasons, and because of critique or because of the culture of nightlife or because of having to think about money in art and all of the challenges that so many creative fields deal with, they have taken it for granted. Like you may not play music in front of people like this for the rest of your like forever. And so like this is a dance that, and I think about this even in events. We talk about it all the time with Stay Silent. Like Stay Silent may not be forever, you know? And for sure it will always change. So I think like in all of it, the gratitude part of like you're bringing something to folks and they're looking at you and thinking about you, and you're the soundtrack for 12 years of people's lives.
Yeah, what I always say too, like to your point about having I guess like gratitude for the people that come. I'm like, yo, it'd be nights, it could be 125 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're used to having 200. And I'm like, yo, it's someplace they ain't got nobody. So, yo, if and this is just I understand this is the duality of being a business owner and a DJ.
Right.
Is because like
you sit in both seats.
So like for me, like the biggest thing that I try to have when I walk into a party, and obviously a lot of them are at a venue that we own and operate, is I try once I walk in there, I'm just trying to be a DJ. Like my thing is not about
shutting the brain off to like how the bar is running or what's happening at the door.
Mm-hmm. It's man, if 30 more people came, this would be this. Is like, yo, I gotta work with what's in the room. And I think the biggest thing that I was thinking about when you were saying some of this stuff about like
gratitude.
like the dance is like the interesting thing about this culture is like you can't dance if we not both on beat. And that's like we all need to be on sync with each other. Like, yo, the DJs, yes, this is an art. Yes, this is something that's near and dear to us. But if we can't connect with the people, then we're not doing our job. But if you as a person who's coming here to enjoy what we're doing are not at least open-minded,
are like hypercritical or closed,
then it's like, yo, what are we really doing here?
Yeah.
And I think like one of the biggest things I feel like that you've highlighted in all of this is like this problem is like a microcosm of like a world thing that's going on. And I think sometimes we lose like sight of this. And I like even like when I was younger, I would say this to my friend. And this is even before I was DJing. I remember my boy Sean Suleiman, right? We would go to parties and like and I said to him one day, I said, yo, people be so critical of the DJ, but yo, you don't know if that nigga was having a bad day. Like he could have got into an argument with somebody, came here, that been on their mind this whole time. Maybe they sick, they not. I'm like, yo, we be saying all of these things about these people, but yo, you know, like
they're humans.
Like you don't know.
I mean, you DJ'd in after so many crazy circumstances. Yeah. People have no clue.
So I just think like all of these
empathy and like just more like I think across the board curiosity.
But on the second note that I was gonna say with that, like outside of the DJ, shit, you don't know what the person was going. Like, you know how many times people they've been at a party like, yo, man, oh, this just happened at home. I just wanted to get out to hear some music.
Yo.
You know, like, and so they might not even. So you looking into the crowd, they might not even be in the mood to dance. They just there to feel
somebody
something.
forced them to come out tonight.
Yeah, they just there to feel something,
right.
And so like, yeah, they not dancing, but you still having an impact on their frequency too, though.
Yeah, that's so real. It's a reminder we don't really know a lot of things in all of it. And I think when we're looking at the year and 2024 and like pivoting, I do feel like this year has been a clarifying year for me where the business of the art like needs to be nimble and needs to change. Like in general, across all spectrums, like I'm not just even talking about Stay Silent. Like I think if we thought opening like a brick and mortar and opening crib was going to create like a certain level of stability, it has. And also like that's something that needs to continuously change as everything changes. The economy changes, the way people consume music changes, the way our region changes, based on how many other venues are opening or how many parties are doing things in different cities, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I've realized this year that I can do like venue ownership any day of my life. Like I could run the Strand or House of Blues Boston, like with a team and all of that across the board and do it. Here's the paper. Here's what it looks like to rent this space. Here's how we're going to get the sound and light right, et cetera, et cetera. I can't do that every day with Stay Silent because Stay Silent to me is like a creative force. It's my creative love. It's your creative juice love. Like we've done this thing and our friends and our community, like it's something that is not tied to business. And I would rather do Stay Silent. And of course, like I think we've learned enough where we can make a business out of it. But that business might not be the same thing as like running a nightclub or running a dance space, which again, I can do the 9 to 5 of that or the 10 to 2 of that. But I can't do that with the same heart because that's the artist heart. That's the creative heart. And those things do need different room. And I think I resonate with what you're saying about when you walk in, you're just DJing now. Like, I think I was struggling for so long with like the difference of those things. Cause I'm in this space with all of the business side of it so heavy on me. And it's like, yo, but I did not create this space with that clipboard in my mind. Like I created the space. I was like, I want to be with my friends in the event that I want to be in. And so like, I think about my best moments this year. I think about Pangea Sound. I think about Daytra, Love You Better Picnic, which was sold out and was crazy. And like, those were dreams we've had. So to see like us hit dreams still and like have moments like that, even in a year that again, economy was challenging. How are we getting people out? It feels oversaturated. I feel oversaturated. Like, you know, I look at the moments that felt really aligned and it was the shit that I was able to be like, the business is the business, but like, why am I motivated to do this? And what does this feel like? And it's the shit that pushed my taste level or was a better representation of my taste level or the shit that I could focus on and do the details. And like, yeah, just like interesting to see how much we learn about those things as we get older and more experienced.
I agree. I think it's a reset. Mm-hmm. Like everything's going through a reset. And for me, I think it's gonna be dope. I think all of the things that that I'm saying like, oh, these are challenges or these are problems. I think it's something that's gonna change our culture from DJing and musically for the better. The one thing, and this is the point that I didn't touch on, like in regards to hip hop, that I think that we need to be like very sure and aware of is the uncomfortable truth that the reason hip hop is not thriving in a lot of spaces because a lot of these spaces are anti-Black and they don't understand or want the culture to exist. So this is a nuance. I mean, to me, I think it's very obvious, but
I think to most Black DJs,
yeah,
which again, like in hip hop and in hip hop culture, there are less Black DJs at this point that I think than I've seen.
Yeah.
Like in our whole career.
And I think it's a question.
At least on like a trending level.
This is also a question that I have with every Black DJ. Like we say, like, yo, why are we not allowed the freedom to do X, Y, Z and play in certain place or do this
or be pedestaled in certain ways or brands to align with?
And I think especially when a lot of
it's all Black music,
like even outside of Black music, a lot of the influence, like for example, it's like you're influenced by sound system culture. But your audience don't like when sound system culture come into the party.
Like, so, and again, to anyone who was there when Jabba and like folks was at Day Trail, Massive B was at Day Trail, just know if you was tweeting that was crazy and they were talking too much, like go like sit down somewhere, because that is the energy of a party of a sound system. Like, and it's exciting and it's different. Like there's balance. There's room for all of it. If that was the one time this year you heard a DJ talk on the mic, like I'm really glad it was Jabba and Massive B for real.
And that's like one thing that I just hope that like with this reset that, you know, Black DJs don't get washed away in what's going on, or washed away from the opportunities, like, because I don't think we're ever gonna go anywhere, but I'm just saying from the higher level opportunities. But secondly, I would also say like a place that I think, and I had to go see this for myself, and that we reference in this podcast, that I think has a very interesting cultural makeup, and I think the way that they talk about club culture and music, and you even see this with R&B too, is the UK. I think if we're becoming more open to these things from the reference points that people's getting from seeing on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, it's like, yo, let's go experience some of these things in person. Like, all right, cool. You've seen this on the internet. It looks lit. Yo, go experience this in person and add that to your arsenal of references for like when you go out and measure things in your own city. Because I do think there is a general openness that they have in some of these other countries that, yo, we just don't have here.
As Americans. And like remembering that a lot of it is systemic, like it's purposeful.
Yeah. And too, like they've taken it's, you know, like this is also something that I realize is not going to change in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Like they have a long culture of this, just like, you know, like how people say like Stay Silent has added to the culture of New England. You know, realistically, that's 10 years plus now. And so we just have to, you know.
Every time I get frustrated and I get to the place of like, what is going to happen, I remember like 10 years ago, this was not what New England looked like. No. Like I remember that the work we've done has shifted and been a part of a shift that many people have put energy into. And like in 10 more years, that feeling of like freedom and openness that you experience in the UK, like I want us to be a part of that in New England. And like I ask our audience and want to keep having the conversation. Maybe there's a part 2 to this of like, what are the questions we ask ourselves to like set ourselves up for curiosity and openness in listening to new music, in trying new fashion, in going into new spaces, in being in dance community, like all these things. I'm wondering like, what are those questions? And I'm asking our audience that, and I hope we can like have more of a dialogue around those things.
Let's get back to the feeling and let's go outside.
Let's go outside. And like, again, let's define what that outside feels like. Yep. I'm really excited for a 25 filled with like a lot of intention. And I think feet on the ground after this reset.
What Bilindoff be saying? Feet on the ground.
Both feet on the ground.
Air in my lungs.
Air in our lungs. Yeah. And onward. I mean, there's so much more to say. Maybe there will be a part 2 if we feel so inclined. Shouts to all in New England for continuing to push things forward. It's been an active year. Lots of folks doing things. Really proud of the region.
Yeah.
And
you know, right now it's not, like we said, it's not easy.
Not easy, yo. Shouts to everyone.
Shit is fucked up. People trying to survive.
Yeah.
And you know, just got to keep your head above water. And
yeah,
you know, like it's not easy, but just know that you're not the only person that's going through this. Specifically the people in the event space. You're not the only one that's like, damn, yo, this shit used to be 250 people and now it's 150.
Yeah, and mad love to like, the promoters, like the people hosting poetry nights and slams and dinners, and like their first time throwing a party is this year in the mix of all of this. And like there is a purpose. I think this is the time where you really got to know what your purpose is, because and unmarry that expectation. So like those 125 rooms, those 50-person rooms, those 30-person rooms, as long as we keep our like intention of why we're doing them, they are moving us forward. They are moving us closer to the dreams that we do have. And they're pushing us to make sure we're not in it for those other reasons. Because if it was about just the numbers, I think a lot of people would have quit this year. So shout out to everybody who's still in it. And here's to another 12, God willing.
12 is such an interesting.
I know. But we started on 12-12.
Facts.
12-12-12.
Facts.
This is the 12th episode.
Wow. Sound like 19 keys now.
You already know.
12 plus 7.
Think about it. That's 19. 7's my favorite number.
Wow.
Let's do it again.
And we out.
Thank y'all. Catch this whole thing on like all the things, streaming things, and follow us on social media at Stay Silent PVD.
Yo, also like the sneaky TikTok is doing numbers right now. So
Jay, you see Jay with the DJ content. Shouts to Bilindoff on the back end, and shouts to Rhue. Shouts to the whole team.
Yeah, but yeah, do that.
Yeah, come follow us. Wait, what else was there? Oh, and this weekend, come party with us for our anniversary. We have Kitty Say Word at Crib on Saturday. And on Sunday, we're in Boston at Rhue for Lottie Dottie. And we out.
For sure.
Thank y'all. Peace.